What's up, Digital Business Evolution? Welcome back to the show. We have a super special guest here today. I'm really excited to introduce Isabel to you. So, Isabel Smith is the founder of Isabel Smith Nutrition. She's a nationally recognized integrative registered dietitian, health and lifestyle expert, and she's also a certified level 2 Reiki practitioner. I want to talk about that. At Isabel Smith Nutrition, she and her team of dietitians work with clients of all ages and in most areas of wellness, but they specialize heavily in gut health, thyroid, hormone, autoimmune, and allergy. Isabel and her team guide their clients towards true health and healing through helping clients identify and treat the root cause of their dis-ease. I love that. Her expert opinion has been featured in print and online in places like Elle, Mind Body Green, Reader's Digest, Women's Health, Men's Health, and many others. Isabel also is an advisor and consultant and brand ambassador for various companies that she loves, as well as an angel investor in the CPG space. Wow. Okay. So I want to just dive right in. I'm so excited. A New Yorker, a fellow Northeast girl. I just love and adore you. I'm so pumped for you to be here today. I'm really excited, though, to take the conversation beyond just the nutrition and really take it into entrepreneurship, because that is something that you also do really freaking well. So, Isabel, my dear, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Such a treat. So fun to
Yeah.
be here with you.
Yeah. So take us back, because you've been running business for nearly a decade, which is pretty
Yeah,
crazy. How
it
did you get
flies.
into it? Did it start like brick and mortar? Did you have gut issues or something? I feel like that's a lot of places that people start in that
Yeah.
space.
So, I have actually wanted to do this since I was 11. This has been like a very lifelong, a woman who was a dietitian came to speak at school when I was 11. And I just was like enamored by the prospect that you could heal somebody's body through food. So
Wow.
that sort of like jumped the journey like forward for me. And sort of that's really where my like head got in the game with like, this is where I want to go. And, as you know, from working with me now for, I don't know, 6, 7 months, I'm fairly open to like kind of how whatever comes and open, so the journey was really a very interesting one to get me where I am. I actually started grad school without the RD in place at Tufts, which is the only freestanding nutrition grad school in the country. I
Wow.
kind of blindly ended up there, to be honest with you, because I applied to a bunch of schools, was like a very unfocused senior in college, having too much fun, landed in a, I believe
Is there
things
such a
happen as
thing?
there's, yeah, I mean, right. I believe things happen as they're supposed to. I ended up where I was supposed to be, which allowed me the opportunities to really dive in and kind of get different perspective. I worked with the Red Sox. I worked in, oncology. I worked in a lot of different places with wonderful mentors that kind of opened my eyes to all different kinds of areas. And then kind of by accident started the business, to be honest with you. I was uh finished with my oncology fellowship at New York Presbyterian and was like, okay, so like, there weren't any hospital jobs open at the time. And I was planning on doing that. And then an opportunity landed in my lap for me to really start my own gig kind of by accident. I don't think I would have done it if you had held a gun to my head, because I think I would have been too nervous, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, it happened in like within 2 months, I was making twice as much money as I would have made in the hospital if I'd gone back. And I was kind of like, well, at this point, I can't turn back. So, that started my journey, which was with, VVIPs in a concierge setting. And, I had various different, brand partnerships that popped up, and corporate opportunities, and working with Madison Square Garden, and all sorts of things that kind of came my way, honestly, that I wasn't planning on.
Yeah.
So, the twists and the turns of being open-minded allowed me to really see the opportunities as they came.
Yeah.
And it's just fun, right? This is my creativity really shows up in the form of my business. I'm a little more rigid in my personal life than I am in my business. So, like that's been really fun. So
Yeah.
that's sort of how I got where I am now.
Do you feel like there was an element, Mike and I were just having this conversation. I don't know if this is true for you, but for me, the building the business initially, it was a lot of saying yes. Like I said yes to
Yeah.
every opportunity, every free thing, every event, every networking, every. And then in order for
Yes.
me to really scale the business, it's been a practice of saying no.
Yes. Same.
Yeah.
I did absolutely everything. I said yes to every article, everything that came my way that felt remotely interesting and that I was thought wouldn't be negative, and most things aren't when you're like really trying to throw every ball at every wall and see what sticks. And then now, yes, learning to say no, because I'm like you, a yes gal.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that interesting though? The negative comment. I did an article back in New York. I'm not going to shout them out. It's a very famous newspaper in New York. And they had reached out to me because I had been a vegan. I mean, 18 years at the time. It was probably like, I don't know, 15 years. And in the nutrition fitness space. And so they reached out about vegan Thanksgiving, and they came to my apartment and they did this big photo shoot and they did this big article. And then the article came out and it was bashing vegans.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
It was like how we ruined Thanksgiving. And I'm like, didn't know that you were going to take that angle.
Yeah, I've had some experiences like that where like, I was interviewed and I was like, oh my God, like, I don't know. I think this person could take this the wrong way. And then by the grace of God, it doesn't end up running. And I'm like, woof,
Dodge that bullet.
Yes. Oh God. Yes, exactly right.
Yeah. Okay. So lots of yeses, lots of opportunities. I mean, you just name dropped some mega companies and businesses, which is so cool that you've been able to do that. When you made the transition, and I know it was sort of this accidental, I think we had a similar experience in that people were asking for help, right? So you're like, okay, I can help you. And now I'm charging, and oops, I have a business, which I think is really common for a lot of entrepreneurs, especially in the coaching space. We work with so many RDs, nutritionists, registered dietitians, functional medicine doctors. There's a gap, I think, a blurry area between I have a job with a hospital, or I have a job with some sort of a company that's sort of backing me on the legal side of things, right?
Yeah.
They're taking insurance, they're handling anything that could go wrong, they're handling testing, because I know you do like stool kits and blood work and all that.
Yeah.
The leap to then go into becoming an entrepreneur, I think a lot of things that stops a lot of RDs or people with similar types of licensing is all of that stuff. So it's not necessarily the fear of I'm not going to get clients or how am I going to make money, but it's like, wow, I'm going to have to navigate things like insurance. Do I take it? Do I not? Is my butt covered with these different things? Was that a roadblock for you?
No, not at all. No, I mean, I believe anything, you can figure anything out, like Marie Forleo says, everything's figure outable. And it is, if you have the mindset that you can figure it out, you do, right? You ask around, you find, lawyers. A lot of the practice software now for us medical people actually has sample liability waivers and like stuff in there that's actually very usable and ready to be used. You figure it out, right? And I think people get hung up on just that, right? Like, what could get in my way? And I think we could sit here all day long and be like, what could happen? Or, we move forward, and as things come up, we figure them out.
Yeah. So must be nice. That's what I'm hearing from our audience members right now. Must be nice, Isabel. You have this beautiful growth mindset and all this abundance, right? What would you tell someone? Because I love strategy and tactics. What would you tell someone that's listening, like 1 or 2 tactical things that they can do in order to make that leap? Because, we call them the golden handcuffs. And while I didn't have insurance and all that stuff to navigate as a teacher, it was like, I have a steady paycheck. I have summers off. I'm out at 325. Like, you're crazy to leave that. So the pension, right? Like the 401k, whatever it is. So what would you tell someone right now tactically, like 1 or 2 things that they could actually do to start to take action on so that they could have a little bit more of that abundance mindset to make the leap?
I think you need somebody who's done it before.
Yeah.
Reach out. You know what? Like, those of us with the headset that I have on, that you have on, we'll answer your questions. Reach out to us, shoot me a DM, send me an email, ask questions, reach out. I am where I am because of my mentors, because, and I'm not going to put their names on the line because of what I'm about to say, which was, they're like, oh, that's not really that important. Like, do we need this, that, or the other thing? Maybe, but like, just move forward, and I think we get hung up on I'm like not really a rule follower, like I am, where in the things that really matter, but like, I'm not hung up on, we're safeguarded where we need to be. And frankly, there's only so much safeguarding we can actually do in life. Right. And there's if people want to find a way around, they will. And so I think a lot of it is trusting and continuing to ask questions and ask people who are doing the thing you want to do. Because they'll answer, people with big businesses, and they are where they are because of the people who helped them get there, right?
Mhm.
And so most of us, I can't speak for everybody, but most of us will pay it forward and answer your questions and be honest and candid with you. And it's the people with the small mindsets that won't, and the people with the big mindsets who will. And those are the people you should ask the questions of. I know that there can be a lot of fear in asking questions of people who seem like they have their stuff together. Um, but just ask, you know
Yeah.
what? And I can speak for myself, and that if I don't feel comfortable answering your question, or I think somebody else would have a better answer, I'll tell you,
Yeah.
but if you don't ask, you don't get, and if you don't ask, you don't know. So that's my perspective on it, and I think I can speak for dietitians, and that I think our governing body doesn't do the greatest of jobs of setting us up for like actually growing and creating a business. And from the beginning, I've actually surrounded myself with more other types of practitioners, more than dietitians, to be honest with you. A lot more health coaches, a lot of like I didn't start surrounding myself with dietitians until many, many years into. And I think it's because I was around health coaches and other types of practitioners who frankly know the business side of things much better than they teach
Yeah.
us dietitians, that I think that for me created a lot of like mental freedom in like understanding and knowing some of this stuff, because I was absorbing from them.
Yeah.
Coaches
Yeah.
seem to have a better, like, so what, they don't take insurance, it doesn't matter, they're sort of like, just charge people, and like just find a lawyer, and it's like, well, okay, like those are
Yeah.
the answers I'm looking for.
Yeah. I think
you
it
know
rings true in so many industries. I mean, still till
Mm.
this day, the majority of our clients are in health and fitness. So dietitians, trainers, healers, but also we have tons of like real estate agents and so on and so forth. And I do think it rings true that a lot of times we get the certification for the skill, like being a trainer, but they don't necessarily teach you the business side of things. And so we find so many of our clients come in who are great trainers, great fill in the blank, even dog walkers, but it's like no one's teaching them necessarily how to build the business. So I do agree. I think some of our higher organizations could do a better job. Maybe they don't want to, but integrating the business side of things, it's like, cool, you have a certification now or a license, but like now how are you going to obtain clients? Like how are you going to make money?
yeah
How are you going to
yeah
retain those clients? So I know that's something that you have done incredibly well. You have clients that have been with you for how many years?
6, yeah, more than
How
that,
do you
yeah.
do it? How do you do it?
I mean, obviously I'm just charming. No, I mean, look, I think I'm very honest with my clients. We are all like, me and my team, we like to ask the hard questions. We really get to know our clients, right? And things, we like to dig deep into things that like people don't think of as things to even discuss. So it ends up being that when somebody comes to us with whatever XYZ thing, there's a lot of things behind it, right? And you can really only get to one thing at once. And when we're done with the gut healing part, we're doing like, general like life coaching. Like I spend a lot of time doing life coaching, sometimes doing some therapy, and then we realize we have this other thing going on that we dive back into, so there's like, I think all of us could use some kind of coaching in general, right?
Yeah.
And I'd be lying if I said I just did nutrition. It's like, in order to really get you to feel your best, there's a lot of things we tackle. And
Yeah.
by the time somebody's had like a lifetime of whatever's going on in their lives and bodies, like there's a lot to talk about. So some
Yeah.
clients are like with us for 3 to 4 months, and they like really come in and get in and get out. And then some other clients just love the support, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't love, I adore my clients. And I think that's something that's been interesting for me. And I wrote you an email last night thanking you for holding space and
Yeah.
like allowing me to show up in whatever my emotional state has been, which you have seen many. I had this like thing when I was starting that like I couldn't get too close to my clients, and like I had to really maintain like a professional thing, this, that, or the other thing. And in the last like year or two, I've like really like allowed myself to really just like love and adore my clients and not be afraid to do so. And that for me has unlocked so much emotional, just like warm, fuzzy everything. And I think that's also allowed the relationships to become like much deeper and more connected, and me to be able to more intuitively, help my clients get where they need to go.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Are
yeah.
you doing things strategically in the business to help retain clients? Because when I think of you, I think of retention. Like you just have an
Mm,
incredible retention rate. And that's something a lot of people struggle with. And what we
yeah.
might not remember or realize is A client that's once already paid, who know, likes, and trusts you, who's had a
Yeah.
transformation, is way easier to sell again. They're way easier to invest again, right? Because they know, like, and trust you. They've had an experience, so
Yeah.
on and so forth. So a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, especially coaches, are, for lack of a better term, leaving money on the table by not
Yeah.
tapping back into their client base that has already purchased from them. We're sort of always out there on the hamster wheel hustling for new leads, new leads. That's the number one thing people tell me is missing in their business. They're like, I just need more followers. I'm like, no, 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 you're confused.
Mm.
We need to nurture the ones that you have, but also what about the ones that you've already sold? So when I think of you, I think of retention, and you just have such beautiful retention. So is there anything that you do? I get the warm and fuzzies and the opening up and the energy of all of that. And I love that. But is there anything that you guys do in your company that really does hold strong retention? Like,
I mean, in the last number of years, we've like really expanded our like testing capabilities. You know, I believe, one of the things that keeps clients interested in continuing to work with us is, you know, also the people we refer to, the ideas we come up with, the testing, the options, the practitioners that everything becomes more valuable when we continue to provide support in different and new ways, right? And I think when people think of us, they think about, really doing deep digging and being out of the box thinkers, which does include like, hey, you need a business coach because I see that this stress is creating problems for your autoimmune health. Why don't you go
wow.
and talk to Jess Glazer, right?
Thanks.
Like what, right. It's like, right. It's like, there's so many layers. And I think that alone, I've heard from many clients, one of the greatest values of working with me and with us is our Rolodex of
Yes.
who else will recommend. And so that's one thing. Something that like is definitely on the schedule for 2023 is finding ways to re-engage old clients who have come in and come through. Because do I have like an ascension model? I've been listening to you. Do we have an ascension model that's like particularly robust? No. As
Sure.
we discussed on our call last night, marketing is not my thing. And I just wrote you an SOS message on our Facebook group about the fact that I'm a fish out of water with email marketing.
Yep.
Not particularly, and so that is definitely in the works and it's not about necessarily like, oh, we want to like, it isn't collect more money from our, old and new and current and future and past clients, but more, what other value can we provide, and how can we continue to support you when you don't really need the heavy duty, one-on-one support from us? Are there products that we can continue to support you with? Are there, lower touch point, services that we can provide? So that is definitely something, as you and I discussed last night, that needs to happen. Like, not really, I think it's that our clients, I can speak for, are fatigued from feeling like people don't get them.
Mm.
And if there's one thing that I strive to do is to get my clients and, really think deeply about what is happening in the body. And, and I think, because of that, people feel seen, they feel like they trust, and, they're like, yeah, let's just keep figuring out what's happening in my body. But to answer your question, I think we could do better on our ascension model.
Yeah. Well, I want to publicly acknowledge you for the work that you are doing, because it's really incredible to see the retention that you have had when you feel like maybe part of it isn't where it could be in terms of
Yeah.
like marketing, but also just really thinking outside the box for your clients and opening up that space. And the part I want to acknowledge you most for is the growth mindset that you have of your Rolodex. So a lot of people could have a really great network of people, but they hold on to them. We hoard them because we're afraid. There's a fear, which is a little bit of scarcity, but there's a fear that if I share this person, then this client might leave, which they're not ours to have, right? But you have such a growth mindset where you're like, no, no, this actually could help you and this could help you. And by doing so, it sounds like you've really created an infrastructure within itself in your business where people trust you even more, love you even more, and they stick around longer because every time an issue arises, you give them a solution, even if it's not you. But I also love that you haven't just jumped ship to pivot, and I'm not throwing shade. I did the same exact thing, right? Like, I built a very successful health and fitness business, and people were asking and asking and asking and asking. And it came to a point where I started teaching business. You have a 7-figure nutrition business that you could very easily teach people business, but you've sort of stuck with it. So I just want to acknowledge you for that, because it is easy to shiny object syndrome, pivot.
Oh, I've got that shiny on, and full disclosure, I have a business coaching business, but it doesn't bring me joy.
Yeah.
So for a long time, I was planning on doing like, teaching and reteaching like what and if you go to, well-fuel.com, you will see it. Um, it does not bring me joy.
Yeah.
It does not light me up like helping people feel like their very best selves does. And, you know, um, we may down the line do a more like, how do we think the way we think, which is different than let me help you scale your business, right? Like we definitely have a lot of interest in people wanting to know, how do I like help people heal their bodies? How do I think the way I think? That I think we are definitely going to jump into at some point, like again, as we've discussed, put me on a calendar. But but not that I don't want to help other RDs, because I do, but it doesn't make my heart shine
Yeah.
like working with my clients does. And I've had a lot of I've thought deeply about this because, not that it would be easier, but it's like, I'm like, what lights me up, right?
Yeah.
And I think all of us have to really stick to that in some way, shape, or form, because, you know, that's just where I think we need to be living, what lights us up. And
Yeah.
so, um, but I've thought about it. The website looks real nice, so go and visit it.
Well,
And
you said something just now that I don't want to glaze over. I actually think it's the most incredible and powerful soundbite. And you just said it very blasé. You said, we want to teach them how we think.
Mhm,
So this is something we are going to be focusing on in our mastermind in 2023 is
mhm,
sort of training, for lack of a better term, training the members of our mastermind
mhm,
to ask why rather than what or
mhm,
how.
mhm,
The common, like the default is, what number did you get to before you hired a support coach? How much money did you make before you outsourced to whatever? Why did you do this 3-day, or how many days
yeah,
does it have to be for a masterclass, right? And those are the common questions we get in our business as business coaches and consultants. And something that we are practicing, Team DBE and I, is figuring out and asking, why did you make that decision?
mhm,
When you can teach somebody the why, that's kind of like you
mhm,
can give a man a fish or you could teach him how to fish and he can eat for life, right?
mhm,
So
mhm,
a lot of times our clients are asking us, how, like, what should I do here? What should I do there? Help me with this, help me with that. I'm like, oh, no, no, no. It's why did we make that decision?
mhm,
So you
mhm,
just glazed over it in a sentence real fast, but you said it. And I truly believe that is one of the reasons why you and your business is where it is today, because the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions that you ask. And so
mhm,
the sheer fact that you're thinking in the why did we do something? Can we teach people why we do it? Why we're thinking, how we're thinking outside the box rather than what we do, follow this framework, is literally why I think you're where you are.
Thank you. No, it's taken a lot of sort of like deep thinking on my part as to like, there's so many dietitians I could teach to like just do what I did, but it's not interesting to me. But helping them, right, understand where my brain goes when I hear these symptoms, and like, kind of like what happens in when the wheels get going, I think is much more valuable, because I think, dietitians ask me questions about their patients and their protocols all the time. And I'm like, I just want you to like take a step back and think about why this is happening in their body. Right, same thing. The formula doesn't matter. It's the why am I thinking this way, and what's behind the scenes in the decision making that I think is lost in translation, in helping people heal people in my space and in your space, same thing, just, same, but different.
Yeah.
So
So
I'm such
powerful.
I'm such a question asker. I have been asking so many freaking questions my whole life. I remember my cousins being like, "Oh my God, stop asking me questions." I'm like, why? So
Yeah, but you're curious. It's great. That curiosity, it gives you, it opens the doors for learning. It opens the doors for
Mhm,
growth. I just love it. I want to shift gears for a second. I'm not asking for any advice on my personal life and what I've been through, but where I want to shift gears is this idea that you think outside the box. And I love this so much. So, as someone who struggled with gut issues, I've dealt with burnout twice. I had a breast cancer scare one of the times that I was
mhm,
going through burnout. And that was the
mhm,
moment that it really woke me up to, I need to slow down and really take a look.
mhm,
I never really, well, I haven't struggled with sleep necessarily, but
Mm,
maybe breakouts, maybe
mhm,
stress, maybe this, that, and the other. And I've worked with functional medicine doctors. I've worked with registered dietitians. I've done the energy and the Reiki healing and the
mm,
acupuncture, like you name it, I've done it. And I've been on all sorts of elimination diets, low FODMAP for far too
mm,
long. I can keep going.
mm,
I have never worked with someone, and again, this is not about they're not good. I
mm,
never worked with someone who said, interesting. Well, could the stress be coming from this other area of your life? And if so, why don't we support you in that area rather than, and I see this as you going to the root cause as opposed to
mm,
putting a band aid on the symptom. So for me, I've always been treated, even in the holistic approach, as here's a band aid for your
mm,
symptom. And
mm,
even though I've done stool samples, like I've done all
mm,
the blood work, but hearing you say how you really truly are thinking outside the box, and maybe it's something as simple as getting daycare at home, having help with the house, taking some time off work, whatever that might be, getting a business coach. My mind right now is like, like, why did no
mm.
one ever look at the other areas of my life?
It's so
How did
important.
that like how did you start thinking outside the box? Have you always done that? Do you train your dietitians to do that as well?
Yeah. So, it's something, I don't know whether I'm like part medium or like part like, I'm like able to sort of like sounds so woo-woo. I'm able to kind of like take a step back and just like think of all the parts and be like, something's out of alignment here. And I don't think it's the obvious option,
Mm.
and I think sometimes we grab for obvious straws, right? Oh, like you just need to stop fermenting bacteria in your food in your gut and don't need a FODMAP. It's like, no, we need to go like 5 steps back,
Yeah.
and I think, you asked me about whether my own journey was involved. My own journey did not actually get involved until 4 years into my business being my business, and, um, I having to do a lot of my own deep digging myself, which was, melanoma to getting off of ADD meds to having mold to probably getting bitten by a tick then, or maybe earlier to new anaphylactic allergies and having people be like, oh, it's all fine. I don't really know what's going on. Right. And then listening to cancer podcasts and doing research and understanding the role that stress plays and how the central nervous system impacts the entire healing process, right? And so nobody heals anything if their central nervous system is going haywire. So how do we help each of our, people get into a state where they're not going 24/7?
Yeah.
That does relay to getting help, help in the house, talking about the role that their partner and their support system plays, thinking about what's growing in the walls of their home, talking about their family history, where their family's from, the evolutionarily, what are we used to digesting, kind of thinking like much more macro, because I think we get really hung up on the micro
Yeah.
and it's the big picture that matters. And, again, when dietitians and practitioners reach out and they're like, well, what do you think about like this specific thing? I'm like, what's the big picture looking like?
Yeah.
Because it's the big stuff that matters. I say to people all the time, I don't care what you do on an infrequent basis, that these micro things, it's
Yeah.
like when we look at the big picture, we often see a lot more.
Yeah.
And it's through experience and it's through trying to understand what's happening in these complex situations that I've really seen so much more success in really being 360. And the thing you think it is, it often isn't,
Mm.
right? And that's the thing that I've learned over time and just sort of poking around and thinking and like just like kind of ruminating on like, why is this person's body so aggravated?
Yeah. Analogies are my love language and like visuals and stuff. So I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like right now, this is literally the dumbest example. But when you're talking this through, I'm imagining stubbing your toe, right? You stub your toe and it's like, oh, I stubbed my toe and you're angry and you want to ice it because it hurts. But if you could stop for a second and zoom out to go more macro, like you're saying, the micro is I stubbed my toe. The macro is, was I rushing? Am I late for something? If so, why am I rushing because I'm late for something? Well, I'm late for something because I overslept. Well, I overslept because I'm not getting good sleep, right? And we go and we sort of like unpeel, like we keep going out, 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 out. And you might think I'm crazy right now, but that's how I'm sort of taking what you're saying. Is that
Right.
yeah.
And exactly. It's exactly right. And I think when we zoom out on all the elements, right, it's like, this person's having allergies. Well, maybe I just learned that they moved a couple months ago and they bought all new carpets in their house, right? And it's not necessarily what they're eating or their dog but it's the, VOCs from this really nice looking carpet that's supposed to be natural, but sat in a warehouse in India for 2 years.
Yep.
That may be causing the problem. Again, it's like, it's more peripheral often than it is microscopic.
And at that point, then you have the ability to order certain tests to see if you can actually get those answers. Okay. That's really cool.
Yeah. So
that's really cool.
We, one of the reasons, we moved, not far from the city, but just like a hop, skip, and a jump, was because I wanted to be able to offer more testing and I couldn't do so where I was. So, we moved so that we have a lot more access, and we do all sorts of stuff,
not just poop.
Not just poop. We do environmental stuff. We do allergy stuff. We do blood stuff. We're partnering with practitioners who can run like really extensive Lyme, and bug-borne illness stuff for our clients. We do all sorts of stuff on like a much bigger scale because, the stool is important, but I'm actually not ordering as many stool tests as I used to be.
Yeah.
I'm ordering a lot more different stuff because I'm finding that, yes, that matters, but it's not everything. And I think sometimes dietitians in this space get hung up on the stool test, and the stool test is lovely, but there's a lot more things going on often.
Yeah, it's one tool in the toolbox. Hypothetically speaking, I'm not, I'm just throwing it out there. Hypothetically speaking, we've got lots of entrepreneurs and coaches, solopreneurs who listen to the show. They tend to be very driven, motivated hustlers. I'm not saying hustle culture is great. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm very upset with the war against hustle culture. I think we need to work. So I think that there's a balance, but hypothetically, if you had some sort of an entrepreneur who maybe has struggled with gut issues, hormone issues in the past, maybe they've gone to someone before and they've done the work and they've had to do the low FODMAP and they've done the tests and they've, whatever it was, allergies, this, that, and the other. What would you say to them when they know that something is off, but their answer is, I don't have the time for that. I don't want to go through that again. If I have to work with Isabel and her team, it means that I'm going to have to go back on supplements or go back on this, that, and the other. And I don't have the time for that. I'm too busy. What would you say?
When you want to do the work, you'll step forward. I can't make you do the work.
Yeah.
And because of that, like I'm strict with like, if you want to be on my schedule, you're going to be on my schedule, right? We're not going to do it every here and there. You're going to get nowhere and I'm not going to be able to help you. And so when people want to make the time, they make the time, full stop. Right. And that's the point, right? No matter how busy or how not busy, like if it's important, you'll do it. If you don't feel crummy enough, you're not, or you do, or whatever, when you want to make it a priority, you will.
Yeah.
Everybody has time.
That pain is a choice, right?
Everybody has time. Everybody has time, no matter how busy you are.
Yeah. What are some of the most common symptoms that you see busy entrepreneurs coming in with?
I've had a lot of my clients, especially the busy ones, of which is most people, really dig deep on sleep. I've been having people order Aura rings left and right, and Aura just came out with like a new beta sleep. So I thought the Aura ring sleep thing was very kind, actually, because like my sleep is not tremendously great. It's like been the one thing that I've been really working on. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like my sleep is so much better than I thought it was. They came out with this like beta, and my sleep is trash. And so, so you all should check, whoever has one, all should check check out my sleep in the beta, whatever. Sleep is definitely, so your immune system is the most important organ in your body in terms of, it's all the organs are important, but in terms of your weight, your brain health, your allergies, your body's tolerance to whatever it is you want to do in your life. Your immune system matters entirely. I'd say your immune system and your detox potential. Detox potential means, our ability to handle all of the garbage that we put in our body, that we surround ourselves with, etc. Liver, lymphatic system, etc. A lot of that is genetic. So we show up on earth with that. Some people do it better than others. A good example of great detox pathways are somebody who can, this is not the best way of living, but drink like a fish, do 2 or 3 CrossFit workouts a day, not sleep very well, repeat, and have no, effect. That is not me. That is not me at all. So the detox pathways in the immune system, I say the immune system is in charge of allergies, like I said, weight, sleep, muscle recovery, like all the things that we really live in on a day-to-day basis. When the body is exhausted, the immune system doesn't have time to do its job properly. You might get sick more often. You might have more food allergies. You might have, gut bacteria imbalances, thyroid dysfunction. The immune system is the key. And that doesn't mean that you get sick all the time. By the way, the people whose immune system needs the most work, I find, are not typically the people who get sick often.
Yeah.
You're looking at one right now, with, Lyme and all this other garbage that I've got in my body. I don't get colds very often, knock on wood. That's not the problem, right? It's the
Right.
other things. It's the day-to-day. So I find that the exhausted, busy person isn't sleeping well. Their nervous system is on hyperdrive. Maybe they're, eating and standing and walking and doing all those things at once. They're not creating space for themselves, and that's fine. And some people's bodies can tolerate that. But what I would say is over time, you're going to get really tired of living that life.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really hard for you to keep up with, the space that all entrepreneurs need to hold, to be creative, to think in the future, to be open-minded, right? Because we become tunnel vision when we're exhausted, we're not sleeping, and we're not taking care of ourselves.
Yeah. But I can live on just a couple hours of sleep and coffee, right? We get those people, I think, especially in college, I feel like it was such a prevalent conversation for all of us where it was like, yeah, you could. I was going to class on a couple hours of sleep or whatever that would be. And back then, probably chugging a Red Bull, which is horrifying to think about. Sorry, Red Bull.
Yeah, love you, Red Bull. Thank you for your improvements,
Sorry.
but still.
But you could function on, we all can function on. I mean, you look at new parents, I'm not one yet, but you look at new parents and they are functioning on just a few hours of sleep. So it's like, we can do it, but just because we can doesn't mean we should.
Doesn't mean we should. And it's like, how do we all show up for our team, for ourselves, for the people that we're working with when we're in that state? Not well. And by the way, I am like queen of hustle, you know that. And one of the things I appreciate the most out of you, Jess, is that you are honest about the fact that you work long hours. I have, and that you like embrace it, because I've had plenty of situations with business coaches and they're like, oh, I work like, 5 to 6 hours a day and I like prioritize whatever. And you're like, no, like I work many hours a day, right? I choose to because I love to. And I think that's rare. But I mean, like, I think in order to be some kind of entrepreneur, you kind of have to be a workaholic, to be honest, or like, or at least like love what you do, because it's so much work and it's so much thinking, but you really have to temper how you show up, not only for yourself, but for your team and in whatever capacity you're working with other people or other businesses. So the better you show up, the better your work is, the more fun it is, the more creative you can be.
And it's just minor little things. It doesn't have to be taking a week off, once a month, or doing all these like crazy self-care things that cost a lot of time and money. It's just prioritizing, like you said, sleep, making sure you're eating actual food, not just coffee and chocolate. Again, not that I know anyone that would do that. But you said something just now about team and leadership. So you have an incredible team. You've got lots of people on the team.
I do.
And I know leadership was a bit of a smack in the face for me. It was a rude awakening. Like, really, I think a lot of us think, number one, leadership is easy. Number two, that we're all just innately leaders. Number three, that when you have a business or you have social media, especially social media, you just are a leader. But the rude awakening for me was like, that is not the case at all. Leadership is a skill. It is not something that you are just born into. Some people have leadership qualities, but it is a skill. And it has taken me years to get okay at it. Truly. Like, I'm not great at it. And I know that. And the more that I can become aware of that, and the team as well, the more we can all work on that together, whether that's communication, difficult conversations. I mean, it is probably our biggest thing that we are working on together as a team. So what are some things that like shifted with you with leadership? Was it a rude awakening for you? How do you manage your team? How do you manage yourself while managing a team? Just walk me through leadership.
So the Isabel that is sitting here today is not the person that, if you had met me in March of 2020, I was like, I mean, I'm a great only child who like does things all themselves, right? So like, I've never been a person who's asked for anybody's help or done any asking. I don't think I've ever asked my parents for their permission on or thoughts on anything I've done. I've just done it. And so for me, I at some point decided, it was a conscious decision, that I was going to give it a go to have people work with me. And I had multiple misfits, for lack of a better term. I started working with people and having people work with me in like probably 2017, 2018. And I had, it felt like a revolving door for a while. And so in March of 2020, I got my first business coach. I had my business for 6 years before I started investing in the business. Isn't that
Wow.
crazy? And now I'm like, I think since March of 2020, I have spent multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars on
That's
business
crazy.
coaching. And I'm like, what was I doing before?
Yeah.
That has been the difference for me in figuring out how to have a team. I think I decided at some point, because I had such wonderful patient volume, that either I was going to turn people away, I was going to have a giant wait list, which I hate. I'm super impatient and I hate waiting. So I don't want to do that to anybody else. I am the worst waiter. And so, I was like, I can either turn people away or I can figure out how to do this. So through a lot of trial and error and a lot of coaching and a lot of support, and a lot of continued learning, I listened to podcasts. I've been reading. My mother is an excellent leader. She is not an entrepreneur, but she like literally was born to lead. She was like at any given time over 100 people under her, and she thrives in running teams. And I'm so grateful to be able to be like, oh my God, mom, like this. And she's like, Isabel, you just have to have more frequent meetings with them. Like, come on, that'll make the biggest difference. And I'm like, hello, of course it will. And I think it's like asking questions,
Yep.
learning. Once I realized it was a skill set I just didn't have because I hadn't learned it, I stopped being so hard on myself about the fact that I wasn't a good leader or I didn't know what I was doing, because I still don't know what I'm doing. And I'm very candid with my team about it. And I thank them, I thank them for their support. They know always what's going on with me. I am, as honest as I can be about what I don't know. And, what I've learned is that it's really about having the right people.
Yep.
It's about open communication. It's about having people who can be honest with you and that you can be honest with, so that you can be like, I don't really know what I'm doing. And they'll be like, I don't really know what I'm doing. And then, we sit and have a giggle about it. And then we move on.
Yeah.
So that it's not so difficult and serious. And that, like any other relationship that we nurture in our lives, it's the same kind of thing. And I think for people who want to become leaders, I'm not a naturally born leader on any level. It's a skill set and you just have to keep learning. I found this 7-minute podcast, which I'll share. I don't know who it is off the top of my head. It's 7-minute sound bites for leadership skills.
Ooh,
so
cool.
I love that because that allows me minor moments of being able to grab, topics that are important. Here it is. He is called Paul Falavalido, the 7-minute leadership podcast. I've been listening to the 7-minute leadership podcast. So it's like, I don't have a whole lot of time to listen to lots of things. So I hop in, I grab whatever, I scroll through whatever I'm needing, and I just listen to sound bites, right? And I've got leadership books. And so I'm just learning how to do it. And I think the more you learn, like anything else, the more you're like, oh, wow, oh, that's how you do it. So, be gentle with yourself for those of you guys who are trying to be leaders. It's taken a lot of time and I'm, just still learning. I think like we all are.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's twofold. It's like the learning it, but then the implementing it and then taking the feedback, whether that's verbal or non, and then tweaking it and implementing it again. And that's just a process that continues to go on. And it's really interesting. There's two things here. One, what I'm learning too is that not everybody wants to be a leader. Not everybody wants to be a 7-figure entrepreneur. A lot of the people that we work with I just want to make a couple $1,000s a month just to make ends meet or help my spouse or whatever that might be. A lot of people want 6 figures and some want multiple 6 figures. And I'm finding that fewer and fewer actually want 7, multiple 7, 8, 9, because of what it actually is required of you to get there. And it is very different, the capacity, the energy, the time, the team. And so some people don't want a team at all. And you know what? That's great. And you have you've got way better margins if you don't have all the overhead of the team and you don't have other people to manage, and you can make decisions and take action a lot faster when it's just you. So you do not need all of these bells and whistles. And the last few years that the coaching industry really exploded post 2020, and I think the pendulum is starting to swing the other side or back towards the middle. It was this allure, this sexy, entrepreneurship is trending. Everybody wants a team. Everybody wants a 7-figure business. And that's great. But once you start and a lot of people are recognizing, "Oh, I actually don't really want all of that. It's very nice for that person. I thought I wanted it." So I just want to acknowledge you again, because the team part, the leadership part is really hard. It
It's
really
hard.
is, and it is a skill set, and it does need to be practiced, and not everybody wants to do it, and that's okay too. But and I say this with respect, because there are a lot of people listening who maybe
Mm.
have struggled to build their
Yeah.
business for various
Yeah.
reasons, but making 10K a month is easy, and I say that
Mm.
in quotes, but it's easy. It's 10
Mm.
people paying 1,000. It's 1,000 people paying
Mhm.
100. It's one person paying
Mhm.
10,000. It's two people paying
Mm.
5, right? Like it's easy once you know who
Mm.
you're speaking to and your solutions and your problems and your offer. Like there's all those things. But being a leader, scaling a
Mm.
business, having a team, learning that skill, practicing that skill over and over again, it is a freaking ego trip. Like it
Mhm.
is such a mirror to all
Mm.
of your own stuff,
Mhm.
and just even taking feedback. I hosted something this morning, kind of like a webinar, and the team was on it, and they gave me feedback after. And I had to like remove my ego. They weren't attacking me. They were just like, "Hey, from an outside perspective, you said this thing, and we
Mm.
think it'd be a good idea if you don't say that in the future. And here's why." And I was like, "Ugh, like I
Yep.
messed up." You immediately go into the spiral of like, it's my fault. I messed up. Now this is going to happen. I'm not good enough. They could have done it better than me. I'm so embarrassed. And it's like, no, they're just giving outside feedback, and that's fine. So, I love it. Okay.
No, it's true. And the last thing I'll say, two things. One, there have been a lot of tears,
Yeah.
and a lot of tears, a lot of like, I don't know that I want to do this. I had this
Yeah.
like vision of myself sailing away into the sunset on a boat. And I might have even said this to you, like, just like solo. Right. And at some point I had a hard conversation with myself, and I was like, am I okay? Am I happy or okay, or whatever the language was, with this being like it for me, right? Like, okay, like this is my ceiling. Am I okay with that? And I was like, no, I'm not. So I'm going to continue to work at this, and it was that moment. And I don't remember exactly when it was, but I remember the conversation with myself. And I remember because I felt like I couldn't do it. And I was like, do I just give up now? Right. And not give up, but just not settle, or I guess settle for like, this being this, right? Like, this is what it's going to be. And I was like, no, like, I'm not going to be satisfied with that. So then I, was like, let me just continue to work on it. And I think, get help, ask for help, seek help. There's so many people, there's so many ways to get the answers, but also, like Jess said, if it's not for you, respect that. And that's
Yeah.
awesome,
Yeah.
and like do what works for you. Because at the end of the day, if you don't, that's when you don't grow, you don't thrive. When you're trying to do something that doesn't fit you,
Yeah.
that's, and the other thing I do with my team is I say thank you a lot. I try to make sure that I acknowledge, their hard work, the things that go well. I am extremely grateful for them. And, and I make sure I say so very often.
Yeah. I love that. It's so
Yeah.
important. I could just go and go and go. I'm like, how are we at an hour? All right, let's do some rapid fire questions. But before we get into that, before anyone tries to sneak off, how can people find you? How can they work with you? Where can they learn more about you? And I think you have some sort of a gift for our little
I
listeners
do.
here. Okay, so
I
can
do.
you tell us all the things?
So you can find me at Isabel Smith Nutrition on Instagram. Same thing, isabelsmithnutrition.com. We don't have TikTok, or we do, but you shouldn't even try and look, because we're not doing that at the moment. Those are really the two places you can find us. You can, click contact on our website. You can book a call from Instagram if you want to chat with us. We love to, we in fact pretty much always talk to anybody who wants to work with us before we work with them. It's a quick 10 to 15-minute call. We make sure that we're the right fit. We can tell you how we work. We've got lots of different options. And we've got our hybrid program called Inner Circle, which is me and a coach and one-on-one work and testing. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of support, but it's also at a bit of a lower price point. So it's
Yeah.
more affordable. Then there are other options for like more intensive work in different ways. So you can see all of that, both by talking to us or looking at our website. A freebie. Now, which one do I want to give you guys that I think will be the most valuable? I am going to I'm gonna give you guys the one that I actually think is the most important, which are my top tips for improving sleep.
Yes. I was hoping it was
Your
that one.
your immune system needs it. Your immune system only does its job when you give yourself proper sleep. And if you want to be able to do what you want to do in your life, you need your immune system to be on your side.
I
So,
love it.
Jess will include that in the show notes. It is my top tips for sleep. And I hope, at least one of them resonates. I'm going to be, there's some creative ideas in there and some things hopefully you haven't thought of or learned about. And yes, featuring the Aura Ring as my top choice for wearable, because
Cool.
it really is, I can't say enough. I have sent back multiple wearables. I have thrown out wearables. I have done a lot of things with a lot of things I don't like, and this thing is awesome. So
Wow. I don't
yeah,
have one. And I've
you
been
need
wanting
one.
one I've been wanting one for a couple of years. I should just get one. I
You
should
should
just
bite the
get one.
bullet.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do that. We'll
Mm-hmm.
do that for 2023. I'll have an Aura Ring on my next,
Mm-hmm.
podcast episode. Yeah, get it, snag it. It's a freebie. And like you said, there's 10 things in there, but some of them are outside the box. And if you learned anything today from Isabel, you probably got a pretty good idea that she does really think outside the box and ask really good questions. So I know I'm going to download it because I want to see your creative ways to get better sleep. I know it's not just about shutting my phone down before, an hour before bed. I'm sure there's a lot of cool stuff in there.
That's
So,
not even on the list. So there you go.
perfect. I love it. So I don't even know what the 10 are then. Well, I know 9. I don't know 9 because one's the Aura Ring. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Couple rapid fire questions so we can just sort of put a bow on everything. These are just for fun. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
What are you currently reading or listening to?
Tell Me Lies.
Ooh. All right.
I've watched the TV show. I'm obsessed, and now I'm reading the book. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have not watched the show or read the book.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I believe everybody needs a fiction read, and something fun and different. And you can't inundate yourself too much with the business stuff. You need to, but also you need to not.
I agree. I try to toggle back and forth between like the business or fiction just because it's just so much.
Gotta have fun. Gotta have fun. Why else are we doing this?
And there's no space to even implement every single thing that you're learning when all you're doing is learning.
Nope.
Yeah, I love that. What is your favorite movie?
Cruel Intentions, obviously. Ryan
Yes,
Felipe.
so good. So funny. I love it. Where is somewhere in the world that you want to visit? Maybe you've already been there.
Oof. Where do I want to visit? I would like to visit the Swiss Alps.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ski?
Yeah, we do ski. I think in the summer is really like,
yeah.
I'm a really like summer mountain gal. So
No.
I think Swiss Alps summer, I mean, Interlaken, you will not find me scaling the sides of mountains because I am terribly afraid of heights when my feet are dangling. I'm happy to be on top of a mountain looking down, but you will not catch me dangling.
All right. Heard. If I were to give you $50,000, this is our $50,000 question. If I were to give you $50,000 to invest in the business, you can use it any way that you want. You can split it up if you want to. How would you use it?
Oh my God, this is a hard question. Okay, what would I do? I would probably go ham on operations. Spend a lot of money on operations and systems and up leveling and like really dive deep there. And I would give everybody on my team raises.
Oh, that's really nice. I love that.
Because they're all doing an awesome job.
You heard it here, folks. Go team Isabel Smith. All right. Last question. We both know that our businesses are a reflection of us and they only grow to the extent that we grow. And as we grow and evolve, they change. So what is your next personal and/or business evolution?
Oh, this is so good. So, yes, right. And I remember thinking to myself in the first 6 months of business, I am like literally just like spilling my purse of personal stuff, like all over the table and looking at it as I'm trying to like grow this business, right? It's like, everything's just there looking at you. What is coming next? What is coming next is podcasts,
yes.
More TV stuff, more speaking. I was like made to be put on a stage and just, stand there and talk and educate and connect and all that. So that is really like where I want to be headed, as we have discussed. And so the podcast will be launching this year. Love to talk about anything and everything. So that'll be really fun. Sydney Flippo, who is my wonderful co-dietitian, is going to be hosting with me because,
cool.
It's so much more fun to have, in case we have busy times and don't have guests that can hop on, we can chat about like all sorts of things. And, as we discussed, maybe we will start building out our, like, why we think, how we think for practitioners,
I love that.
protocols. and, hopefully seeing me on more stages and television.
I love it. I can't wait to see your face and voice everywhere. Do you have a personal evolution that's coming up as well?
So my dad was just diagnosed with a pretty tough form of cancer, or we think we're waiting on the biopsy, but likely pancreatic cancer. And I'm going to spend the year, helping he and my mom get through it.
I'm very happy to hear that, and I'm proud of you for that.
Thank you.
And we are sending you so much love.
Thank you.
Isabel, I love you. I adore you. I'm so grateful for you.
Likewise.
Just ending with tears now. If you love this episode and got something from it, which I know that you did, there were so many good sound bites in here. Do us a favor. The best way you can give back to Isabel is take a screenshot of the episode, share it out on social media, tag her at Isabel Smith Nutrition, tag me at I am Jessica DeRose. Let us know what your takeaways were. Slide into her DMs. Make sure that you grab the free download all about sleep. It'll be in our show notes. And I know I'm going to head off and find the 7-minute leadership podcast. So thank you for sharing that. As always, friends, cheers to your evolution. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you loved this episode, I invite you to be a part of our ripple effect and share it with a friend. And please, if you feel called, take 30 seconds to leave a 5-star review, and I'll be forever grateful. Until next time, cheers to your evolution.